knockout phase of the World Cup. Alexander Cox's side drew 1-1 with China this afternoon. That's despite dominating much of that match in India. But after falling behind in the third quarter, they were level within 2 minutes. Alan Southern's deflected effort earned Ireland a point. They'll play their final group match against England this Friday in India, and they know that if they avoid defeat, they'll progress to the crossover stage where they can have a chance of a quarter-final place.
Very good. Thanks, Neil. Football Show.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
In association with the faster-than-ever Boyle Sports app for exclusive price enhancements on the biggest games around. Download it now. Boyle Sports. Time to play.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Watford 2, Manchester City 0. Other way around. Sorry, Watford 0, Manchester City 2.
Can't this again? We can.
I wish we could. Damn, that's such a bad way to start the show.
If you're listening on the podcast,
oh my god, that is tremendously bad. Has there been a worse start? That's horrendous. Okay.
I think it's a trick not to just move on and like pretend it didn't happen. Sort of seamlessly.
No, I think
we've laboured on that now.
We can own our mistakes, can't we?
Well, Man City are winning anyway. I think that maybe that might have always given people a sense of surprise and suspense that they may not get with very many Man City games.
I'm not perfect, you're not perfect. Manchester City just may be perfect though, Dan.
They are close to it, yeah. And they've been given a game like by Watford, you know, and Watford could have gone. People have sort of been maybe following some of the updates. I mean,
Troy Deeney.
Man City scored just before half time from Sané, so it was 0-0, and Watford had their chances and could have gone ahead. But I mean, there is just this sort of. When City broke the deadlock, it was Sané with the chested cross. There was a 5-6 minutes before that where they just turned it on a small bit, and it had been coming thing about it, and they've burst out from the second half in a really good sort of a flowing move, and Mahrez sweeps it home at the far post for 2-0. And Watford are on the attack now, and they are good to watch. Watford, like they give it a go.
Watford have been very good. What we've just seen there in the last 30 seconds since the goal is Man City trying to play out from the back, and Watford swarming all around them, and they won the ball back. I mean, it's not often you see Manchester City get caught. They won the ball back and suddenly have possession inside the Man City box, and it came to nothing. But they've been good. You mentioned Sané, so his goal was a nutmeg inadvertently, so it came off his chest and just went in. He started the move in the build up to that Mahrez second goal. I was laughing during Neil's update because I was watching. He got the ball around the halfway line and nutmegged one Watford player, and then the next one rushed in and he nutmegged that Watford player too, and then the long strides up the field, and that was how the move started.
Yeah, he is, when he's in full flight, he's as good to watch as sort of any player, really.
Seems to have a high opinion of himself. One of the reasons he was left out of the German squad in the World Cup.
Yeah, he's,
confident young man.
You can sort of understand why you would be confident, though, if you were that good, you know. Because I know one of the things we might talk about is the Raheem Sterling interview.
We're going to do it first.
With Henry Winter. Well, there you go. Because I was actually looking up Leroy Sané's age there, because I'm trying to figure out what age he actually is. And the 20, he's 22 now. He's 22, 23 in January. Raheem Sterling, this is a piece from Henry Winter with Raheem Sterling in the Times. Yeah. The one thing that actually just stunned me, that it was like that Raheem Sterling is 23. Like, how long does it feel like Raheem Sterling has been around for?
About a decade.
You know, in the sense that you think of Irish players who've come on the scene and won their first cap, like people like Sean Maguire and people like that, and they feel new in a way. Like Raheem Sterling is 23, yet it feels like he's been in our lives for a long period of time. And even the whole tone of the piece where he speaks, he's got two kids with two different mothers, and there's another one on the way. And we spoke a small bit earlier about like his slightly difficult upbringing. His dad passed away when he was quite young, and he lived it, I guess, in, I don't know, is poverty a strong term, but certainly, difficult conditions in his teens. And now he's, by the age of 23, one of these, like, the most recognisable faces in Britain. In some ways divisive faces, although not really, because it's more so I think that it's more the media coverage of him that's been divisive rather than, I think, the person himself, as much as he wasn't the darling of the English team during the summer like others, because his form maybe wasn't terrific at the World Cup. But I mean, 23, like he's done a lot of living in that time, and he's still got a lot ahead of him. I mean, even just in terms of his football career. Okay, I know sometimes these players who come along, they can burn brightly, and then it's hard to keep it going. The sort of Michael Owen theory, but I mean, he could still have 10 very good years left in his career.
Yeah.
A lot to do.
It's a good piece. I had heard Henry Winter talking about it before I actually read the piece, so he did it over the course of an hour. It feels like maybe they had spent more time together.
He was in the house as well, which I thought was
adds a lot.
Access-wise, that is clearly some good access there. That's been bartered out to get that.
Yeah. He talks of his father, says Winter, who was murdered in Jamaica when Sterling was 2. Think about my father all the time, especially at significant moments like the 2014 World Cup, the first game, being in my hotel room, saying a prayer. I was just reminiscing about my dad, praying and saying, I wish you could be here just for a moment, just to see me on the pitch, just to be proud. I try not to think about it too much because I get sad and moody. I hope he's looking down on me and he's happy. My mum said he used to love football. That's your opener. So, okay. I didn't realise his dad had been murdered, actually, I must say.
Yeah.
And then the bit you were talking about, this jumped out at me the most, I suppose, of everything. So it's still very much a working class game in football, and as you said earlier, a lot of the footballers have come from not the best of backgrounds or upbringings. Sterling used to take 3 buses to the QPR Academy, not always knowing where he was returning to. Said, I'd finish training on Tuesday or a Thursday at Harlington, all the way out near Heathrow, and I'd be getting texts saying, this is our new address. 3 buses back to Harlesden and then find the new place. Moving house, staying in hostels was the norm for me. There was one year where we moved 8 or 10 times. I'm not joking. That year was really, really tough. I'd finish school and get a call saying, we're in Kilburn High Road, staying in a hostel for a little bit, then a hostel again, then a hostel again. To see my mum go through that was difficult. She made so many sacrifices. One of my main goals in life was to do something to repay her, give her thanks for what she's done for me. All the hard work has been endless. Which shines a whole new light on the stories about him buying his mum a house.
Oh,
Shame
yeah,
on you.
yeah. I mean, it is sort of extraordinary stuff. And I mean, it just goes to show, I mean, obviously he was in the QPR Academy, right? So he was obviously getting a good standard of, coaching and where he was. But we had a chat on the show on Saturday just about, schoolboy football in Ireland, what you need to do, what we need to do to produce players. And like the stories like this just show that there's so many variables that you just cannot control. As much as you talk about developing a pathway and all this, you just can't really control what way people's lives are going to go and what other factors there may be. And you can talk about a certain amount of hours here and hours there. But there is something about the dedication and, combination of dedication and natural talent, obviously, but also the strength of character to sort of come through that. And I mean, I do remember when Sterling was at Liverpool, there was a couple of stories even when he went there. I think when he had kids on the way and he was very young to become a dad, and his personal life was a bit entangled, and you did sort of wonder, was this going to be one of these players that could it all happen?
It did look messy
because we know the examples of different players. The sort of the wonder kids who just went off the rails for different reasons. And Michael Johnson at Man City and Ravel Morrison and other names that just hasn't happened, and they've possibly fallen prey to things that Sterling could have fallen prey to, but he hasn't. Like where he is now in his career is unbelievably impressive. You can debate how good he is, and you can debate whether he's truly world class, and you can have all these very natural debates that you have about players in the spotlight.
Yeah.
But to get to where he is, full stop, is an achievement in itself.
A 5-year deal, 300 grand a week. There's no doubt he's improved massively as well. I mean, I was not his biggest fan for a while. I mean, I knew you could tell he was so much talent, but there were things missing from his game, which he has improved. I'll interrupt us briefly, Dan, to find out about a goal between West Ham and Cardiff. Let's go over to Guy Swindles.
West Ham 3, Cardiff 0. West Ham had a few goes at scoring from corners in the first half, but they've done it with their first corner of the second. Snodgrass, lovely delivery, and there was an Antonio climbing higher than the Cardiff defence to power a header home and give the keeper no chance. Well, what a start to this second half. West Ham with 3 goals in the first 15 minutes. West Ham 3, Cardiff 0.
So, he was asked about the media criticism which he has endured, and he picked out the one that he was most baffled by. The story I couldn't get my head around with was the breakfast one, which I'd missed. I went for breakfast with my missus, and it said I'd gone for breakfast despite not winning the PFA Young Player of the Year award the night before.
I mean, that is ludicrous. He's
like, I try not to think about it, but that one I couldn't get my head around. And then quite religious. Every time before I leave my hotel room before a match, I say a prayer just to give thanks. I read the Bible. My favourite saying from the Bible is the one I've taken with me from a young age. Who God blessed, no man cursed. I feel I am God's blessed, and no matter what any man says or does, it can't harm me. So he does admit, by the way, I haven't been the best Christian in various ways, so he's not painting himself as perfect. Oh yeah, the Peppa Pig thing.
Oh yeah, what was that line again?
Well, I've heard a few friends say this. I've heard from, I mean, we're certainly not, we don't qualify for the Dadcast just yet with the lads. But I've heard a few of my friends who do have kids say that Peppa Pig is very much banned in the house on various fronts. Because apparently, I'm no expert here, and there will be dads and mums listening who know better than me. But apparently Peppa has attitude, especially to her dad. Apparently Peppa is pretty rude to her dad in Peppa Pig. So he says it's banned in our house now because there's one bit when Peppa's mum and dad tell her to tidy the room and she says no. And they say, what do you mean no? And then they tidy the room for her, and when they come out, Peppa's ripped the whole room apart. And apparently his son was heavily influenced by Peppa Pig and was, doing what Peppa Pig is doing.
An outcast. I
hadn't been aware of this. It wasn't
a paragraph that jumped out at me from the piece, Joe, I have to admit.
I'd heard a few friends recently bemoaning the bad example of Peppa.
Peppa, yeah.
Yeah, no, honestly. Peppa's so even the Sterling household's not unaffected.
Yeah. Oh, well, there you go. But I mean, it is, I suppose, there's something mundane about that part of the story, which reminds you that he's still a young parent, and not immune to all the other stuff that your mates are talking about as well. You know what I mean? But
just normal life.
Just very normal everyday stuff. And I think sometimes as well there is a desire from our side of the fence to interview these sort of sports people and expect them to be hugely profound characters who have these who have this amazing developed sense of perspective and can sit down and capture it all perfectly, when actually in many cases they're really just learning as they go along, as much as anything else.
It's just a hodgepodge. It's a random example of take all of your mates, make all of them millionaires at 20 and give them massive privileges. How will they behave?
That's true.
Not as uniform. There'll be some lads who'll deal with it brilliantly. There'll be some lads who will be an absolute thundering disgrace, and then there'll be a glut somewhere in the middle. And they'll be all fairly normal at the end of it in 10 years, hopefully.
And also as well, I mean, if you think that, not to sort of generalise, but
especially your mates. I've met some of your mates.
The profile of people that are commenting generally, it might be generally men, but it's men, women in their 30s, 40s, of a certain age. If you sat all them down and said, what did you do when you were 23? What were you like when you were 23?
Yeah.
What mistakes did you make when you were 23?
Yeah.
And then, but when it comes to a footballer who's 23, or younger in some of the cases of in some of Sterling's mishaps or supposed mishaps.
Yeah.
I mean, the standard by which it's judged is sort of deeply unfair. I mean there are with sort of that status and that sort of pay packet, there does come a certain degree of responsibility, and you're a role model. But I'm struggling to see the rap sheet for Sterling of things that he's done, which really...
Shisha pipe for a while, wasn't there?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think there was an instance during the World Cup in the summer where wasn't he late to report to camp, and his excuse wasn't great at that time. And I think because there'd been so much unreasonable criticism of him, it seemed like it was taboo to point out, well, actually, it wasn't great professionalism to be, to not be on time. And I think he was admonished at the time.
On the professionalism, so you're kind of curious about how he's transformed himself, or maybe not transformed, but certainly improved himself. And the garage, which on the outside looks like it's housing lots of cars, 3-door garage, has been turned into a home gym because he's taken that side of things very, very seriously. So he talked about the home gym, which apparently is absolutely fantastic, and he will go home and do extra gym work. He's got a chef in to eat perfectly. He was apparently not starting games well, and then got a chef in because he wanted to have better pre-match meals and eat better in the evening. He has a masseuse call over quite a lot in the evening as well. 23 and he's having a masseuse over. That's dedication. And then talks about Guardiola, which is always going to be interesting. I think we're all fascinated with Guardiola. So that was the other thing that jumped out at me. He said, once upon a time, every time I got the ball, I wanted to come inside, chop, turn, go at people. But it is knowing when to turn, when to do these things, and that's why the manager is so good. He helps me with my decision making. If I'm doing 20 step overs every 5 minutes, I'm going to be tired. My concentration won't be there as much as if I take my time and pick the right moments when to go at my defender, when to get in behind. You preserve energy. Like, I never watch Sterling and think he's preserving energy. He says, that's helped me a lot, not wasting a lot of energy, just running, dribbling, doing a lot of silly things. He says, the manager gets me waiting for my moment to punish my opponent, which is a really good insight. I never thought of Sterling out there waiting. And he says of the Manchester United, remember he was accused of disrespecting United. And
he did get a bit of a dressing down for that as well. It was Mata, wasn't it?
Yeah, Mata said show some respect. He doesn't want us, that's Guardiola, doesn't want us to show disrespect. I was surprised. I was keeping the ball in the corner. That was my sense of it too, by the way. I can understand if we lost the ball and they'd gone down the other end, but I was trying to waste time, attract a foul. I wasn't trying to take the mickey out of them. That's not my thing. Juan Mata just said, show a little bit of respect. I wasn't trying to disrespect them. I wouldn't. I was just trying to keep the ball in the corner. Oh, he does say, and entertain the fans at the same time.
Yeah, so I mean, he comes across reasonably well.
I think he does,
the whole piece.
He was talking as well about, most clubs and teams do boxes as a warm-up with the ball.
Yeah.
And he talks about how Guardiola wants them to do that as seriously as possible. And, like, it's funny, I was watching Ireland training being streamed a couple of weeks ago, and they were doing boxes, 2 men in the middle, maybe the guts of 11 players around. And you know what bugged me? It was not being taken seriously.
The crack?
Yeah. It was, lads were, there was a too cool for school attitude about it. So if lads' touch was, it was like they weren't really trying to control the ball as well as they could. They weren't going at 100%. There was little flicks and twirls, and I'm too good for this attitude about it, honestly. And this is a team who don't pass the ball well on the pitch. I was watching it for about 5, 6, 7 minutes. I don't know, maybe they suddenly straightened
I don't know.
I know you're going to defend, that's fine. But I was watching it and I was thinking, why not take that very seriously? Like, all best practice is take that stuff seriously. New Zealand, with their passing and rugby, take that stuff extremely seriously. The warm-ups, Ron Nagara's been talking about it recently.
Yeah.
Manchester City, Pep Guardiola, the best players in the world technically. The boxes as a warm-up is not take the mick time, it's not look cool time, it's how good's your touch. Let's zip it at each other, see how fast we can go. And I did watch the Irish one by training, or by training by example, and it did kind of strike me at the time. It was just a little bit,
I know what you're saying. I mean, I'm not sure if the recent Irish approach to training would be best practice in terms of match preparation and stuff like that. And we'll see if that changes. I mean, the counterpoint is that, we rarely get to see the good part of training anymore, as in the last 15. We see this first 15 when, I know you're saying it's warm-ups and stuff, but it's generally, because the cameras are there's almost an element of this is just a charade period here, you know? But, sometimes the times we've been in for a latter period, I mean, in terms of taking it seriously, they definitely do. In terms of the quality of application, you can sort of dispute it, but that is the kind of stuff that comes day by day, and sometimes they're coming in after not seeing each other in 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks, and that first session is a bit
jokey.
That's just the way it is, and
I'll accept that as well.
It's different than your workplace where you are 24/7, where really that's as close to where you'd imagine the atmosphere is going to be different. But it's not an unfair observation.
Oh, but I appreciate as well, it's slightly unfair to extrapolate too much based on one
clip.
Streamed fight. It was about 4, 5, 6 minutes.
I'm sure the Man City lads have the odd laugh.
I'm sure they do. Oh, I'm sure they do too, but his sense was, Guardiola was like, well, if we're doing this...
Oh, he is an intense figure, and that came across from the documentary, didn't it, as well?
Guardiola's point is, this is what's going to happen on a match day.
But that is...
It is, like your touch, your passing.
And I haven't watched the full documentary, but I mean, that comes across, that like Pep's... Guardiola's intensity comes across in that, but also that is an intensity that sometimes he burns himself out and stays at a club for a particular period of time as well. So there's different rhythms between the club game and international that can burn you out.
Guess what everyone wants to talk about?
Peppa Pig?
Correct.
Right.
We banned Peppa Pig as my son thought they all looked like hairdryers and was frightened of them.
Hairdryers?
Can't blame Peppa Pig for that. Poor Daddy Pig can do damn all right. This is what I've heard. I've heard the dad in Peppa Pig is really getting the brunt of Peppa's tantrums and gets away with it. I don't understand why you're highlighting the fact Sterling bought his mum a new house. My only question would be why it took so long for him to do so. It's a week's wages. Right.
Sorry, is that?
I don't know. Lad, Sterling is bang on about Peppa Pig, says the Walkinstown Beckenbauer. My daughter's room looks like someone pulled the pin in a hand grenade and threw it in. There you go.
Peppa Pig is bad.
Well, look, I mean, each to their own. I wouldn't
Teletubbies were bad as well, weren't they? But
were they?
That was for different reasons.
Why were they bad?
I think there was a feeling that, I don't know, it was some of the sort of it would have been enjoyed by people who are under the influence of certain.
It's like an acid trip watching.
Yeah, a bit like that. Yeah.
But aren't
kids weren't aware, obviously.
Aren't so many cartoons and kids' TV shows basically work on both levels?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah, deliberately so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the kids were aware when they were watching the Teletubbies that other people would have been taking something completely different from this whole experience.
Yeah. Anything else from Raheem aside from his gym? He's got a pitch out the back, by the way, so he's got those mannequins for practicing your free kicks, all this kind of stuff.
Well, Stephen Ireland used to have a 5-a-side pitch in his gaff as well.
Did he use it though, Dan?
Yeah, he'd get his mates over and they'd make too much noise and the neighbours complain.
Is that right?
Yeah, that was true. So, I mean, you can have your perception of Stephen Ireland, but he truly loved football enough to have his mates over for a kickabout. Yeah. On a regular basis.
I'll give you that.
Now, his neighbours were probably like, I'm not sure if they were literally living next door in a semi-detached. I think it was a slightly bigger property than that, but certainly there was enough noise being made that there was complaints at one point.
Right, okay. So
the rich and famous, Joe.
Huh?
The houses of the rich and famous.
Yeah. So that's Raheem Sterling with Henry Winter in the Times, and it's worth a read, I think, if you're interested. The latest at Watford is 2-0 Man City, 20 minutes to go in that game. We should be approaching full times in the other games. Yeah, there's about 7 or 8 minutes to go. So Bournemouth are 2-1 up against Huddersfield. Brighton have conceded 1 against Crystal Palace, but they are still 3-1 up. Shane Duffy sent off in that game.
It's purportedly like a headbutt has been described. So it's a bit of a, I mean, it's a strange offence for someone. Now, it is a derby. That is a pretty ferocious derby, Brighton Crystal Palace. They don't get on at all. Yeah. And there would be a real edge in that game. But Duffy is going to, if that is what he's been done for, he's going to have a quieter Christmas than most in his profession.
Scored a goal, good header last week.
Yeah, he's 3 goals in the Premier League now.
Not in everything.
More goals than any Irish player scored in the Premier League last year across the entire season.
3.
Top Irish scorers last year had got 2 goals. So Duffy is
prolific.
He is the Alan Shearer of this generation.
His header was good the other day. West Ham are 3-0 up on Cardiff City, so that'll move West Ham into 12th. Bournemouth in 6th as things stand, having a hell of a time. Everton 7th, Manchester United 8th, and then West Ham 3, Cardiff 0. So Cardiff 16th, Huddersfield 17th. The bottom 3 at the moment: Southampton, Burnley and Fulham. We'll take a short break. There's this new European club competition. UEFA are promising no losers in this new competition. Martyn Ziegler from The Times is going to join us, give us his take on it. Dan's been looking into it as well, so if you're not too sure what this is all about, we'll fill you in just a second.
Football on Off the Ball.
In association with the faster than ever Boyle Sports app, with hundreds of pre-live and in-play football markets. Download it now. Boyle Sports. Time to play.
Shall we go for one?
Thursday's nearly the weekend, isn't it?
The bottle's open now, we may as well finish it.
This week on News Talk, our Uncorked series will be taking a closer look at our relationship with alcohol.
We'll be lifting the lid on our attitudes towards drink.
Asking how much is too much and revealing the findings of our personal drink diaries.
Ireland's drinking, Uncorked.
All this week on News Talk
and on all our social media channels. See newstalk.com/uncorked.
You can get all your Christmas shopping done in one place at Swords Pavilions. From treats and presents to food and gift cards, we've got it all. There's 2 hours free parking and it's so convenient, right off the M1. So grab your little helpers and head on over. Jingle all the way. Christmas at Swords Pavilions. Festive fashion and fun for the whole family.
Are we there yet? Are we there?
Have patience, go.
I'm so excited, Camel. Do our new families know that we're coming for Christmas?
Yes, they've been preparing to meet us for months.
Really, Cow?
Yes, Boher has told them how we will produce milk and cheese, help on the farm, and pass on our young to help other needy families.
One question. Are we there yet?
Tommy Fleming here, and I'm here to ask you to turn the ordinary into the extraordinary this Christmas with Boher. Please phone 1850 829999 or visit boher.ie.
'Twas the night before Christmas and all through the house. New appliances had been installed with a click of a mouse. A fridge freezer, a dishwasher, new oven and hob. A 50-inch TV and speakers, just the job. You see, at Appliances Delivered, we always endeavour to make each festive season the best one ever. And with deliveries up to Christmas, you can count on us to get Christmas sorted without any fuss. AppliancesDelivered.ie. Christmas delivered.
The all-new Dacia Duster is more rugged, robust and even better looking. And from €149 per month, it's got the perfect figure too. It's the sort of car you'd swipe right on. The sort of car you'd do the dirt with. And by that I mean take it for a drive, off-road. Light your fire for the all-new Dacia Duster. Visit your local Dacia dealer today. Finance is made under a hire purchase agreement. Terms and conditions apply. Deposit required subject to lending criteria. See dacia.ie.
Did you know that right now Carew protects the public by regulating over 15,000 health and social care professionals in Ireland? If you are receiving care from one of the regulated professions, you can visit our website to check if they're registered. So far, registers are open for dietitians, dispensing opticians, occupational therapists, optometrists, physiotherapists, radiographers, radiation therapists, social workers, and speech and language therapists. Our work is ongoing. You can see a list of all professions designated for regulation on our website, carew.ie.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Welcome back. So the latest again at Vicarage Road. Manchester City still 2-0 up against Watford, 75 minutes on the clock. And the other games also pretty much as you were. West Ham 3-0 up in Cardiff City. Brighton 3-1 up on Crystal Palace. And Bournemouth still 2-1 up on Huddersfield Town. Those three games all on the cusp of full time. About 15 minutes to go at Vicarage Road. Now, Dan, you were at the Convention Centre in Dublin. We were eagerly awaiting the draw. That was the most important part of business. But also there was the announcement that there are going to be no losers and only winners from the introduction of the third tier competition in Europe, as yet unnamed. Or has it been named?
Well, no, they're giving it it's a working title of UEL2.
UEL2.
But they don't want it to be called the Europa League 2. That's not what they want it to be known as, even though it's going to be played on the same day as the Europa League, i.e. Thursdays, and in the afternoon or earlier that day, with a group stage to mirror the Europa League in terms of 32 teams in each.
Okay.
But yeah, it's basically it's a drip-down competition, essentially more so weighted towards the smaller leagues in Europe, that the teams that don't necessarily always get into group stage football, as consolation for the fact that it is already hard to get into the Champions League, and it's going to become much harder to get into the Europa League.
Okay.
So that's basically what's going on here, that it's a third competition, and they're selling it on the basis of more leagues will now have a team in European football going all the way through towards Christmas, whereas at the moment there's only X amount of leagues represented in the two competitions. So it's a political move to compensate for the fact that the biggest competition of them all is now damn hard to get into.
Okay, we'll bring in Martyn Ziegler in just 1 second. For a Dundalk, say, who might win the league, is there still an avenue for them into the Europa League, as we know?
Yes, there's an avenue. The winners from this will be the champions in every country. For them, it doesn't really change things that much. In fact, they're going to have, let's say it's Dundalk, right, the Irish champions, and this is from 2021.
Yeah.
If they were to win one round in the Champions League, they go into the Europa League.
Okay.
They've obviously got knocked out of the Champions League, but they get into the Europa League as a parachute. They try and get into the Europa League group stages. If they don't get into that one, they get another parachute into UEL2, where they try and get into that. So effectively, they could lose 2 ties and still end up in group stage football. So it's great for the champions, but the difference is the other 3 clubs from the smaller leagues, and in fact every league outside the top 15 leagues in Europe, they're just not getting into the Europa League at all anymore, qualifiers. They just start off in this UEL2. So for the champions it's good. For everyone else, they're sort of being shown to that. And it's not just Ireland, it's actually, as the ratings, there's like Scotland and other countries at the moment, that it's just their champions will be business as normal, but for everyone else, you're sort of out of sight into this new competition, which is going to be a tough one to there'll be a lot of money thrown at them maybe to soften the blow.
Okay. So UEFA wanted to unveil their shiny new toy on Sunday at the Convention Centre.
And it was yesterday at the Shelbourne Hotel as well. That was
this was
actually,
okay.
There was an executive committee meeting at the Shelbourne Hotel yesterday, and a press conference afterwards with this and a range of other things discussed.
Okay. So on that note, I'll bring in Martyn Ziegler, Chief Sports reporter with the Times. Evening, Martyn.
Good evening, guys.
Thanks for joining us, much appreciated. So UEFA presumably wanted to talk about the UEL2, as it's being called for the time being, and it seems all you pesky journalists wanted to talk about was Manchester City and sanctions and financial doping. You ruined the press conference. Couldn't you have just played along?
Well, it's. I think they knew that they were going to get questions on that as well, and I think actually they were fairly happy to take it. But I mean, the UEL2 is it's been flagged up for some time, so it's always no surprise. I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's quite a good concept, but I think it's like, for example, I think it's a strange decision to say like there'll be one English team in the UEL2, because I mean, if you're going to get, for example, if it's the 6th place team in the Premier League, that could be Manchester United. Do they want to play on a Thursday afternoon against one of the a small team from Albania or whatever? I'm not quite sure that works. Yeah. So I think it'll be an interesting one. But I think it's a good concept, and it's a good way of getting money to clubs that don't normally get money from European competition. So I don't quite see the point in spreading it out to countries that already have plenty of European competition going on with their clubs.
Regarding Manchester City, there are headlines today, presumably from the press conference at the Shelbourne Hotel yesterday. Manchester City could face Champions League ban from next season. So it seems there was the promise of strong action if the Der Spiegel allegations can be proved. And they said that there's an independent investigation happening, a UEFA independent investigation going into Manchester City's behaviour. It's been opened recently. That was the gist.
Yeah, so Alexander Shefrin, the UEFA president, he confirmed this independent investigation. He said it was a concrete case, is how he described it. He said he couldn't say any more, but I mean that's fairly big news in itself. But then it emerged through myself and various other newspaper colleagues, speaking to sources with knowledge of this investigation, that actually it's gone slightly beyond that, and there looks like there's going to be charges brought as a result of this against Manchester City, and there's going to be sporting sanctions rather than just another fine. And if you look back at precedent, what UEFA have done before, Galatasaray and AC Milan, that's a ban from European competition for a year. I mean, I'm sure Manchester City will go to Court of Arbitration for Sport and try and overturn this as AC Milan did, but if it's up to predicting what's going to happen, I think that's the likely course of events over the next few months.
I'm sure people have seen the Der Spiegel reports or read the headlines anyway. Various issues. There were files leaked from 2015 which basically claim about £60 million was paid directly into the club by their billionaire owners, but declared as sponsorship, and we've seen massively inflated sponsorship deals. And also it seems that there was a secret scheme called Project Longbow, which effectively hid about £40 million in payments to players. And the club have paid fines for the breaches. The prospect of them being banned from Champions League seems like a severe one. I'm just, for whatever reason, presuming it will never happen. They will lawyer up and they will drag this thing out as long as it needs to be dragged.
That's the challenge for UEFA is not to be deterred by the threat of spending and getting the top lawyers in the world, and I'm sure Manchester City will try and do that. But I mean, they also have to understand that if they want to take part in a club competition, then they have to abide by the rules. So I think it's a difficult one for Manchester City as well. I think it's not straightforward enough to say that they will fight it every inch of the way, because I think there's only so far they can go. This, from what I understand, this is very much connected with the 2015 not Project Longbow. I think has already been and gone. Mm-hmm. I think that was the sort of thing which led to the previous fine in 2014.
Yeah, they paid the 20 million fine regarding Project Longbow.
Yeah. This is very much looking at the 2015, because there's a rolling 3-year assessment of all the clubs that falls within that bracket. And what the Football League said is that Etihad has this big sponsorship deal with Manchester City, but actually the airline wasn't paying the money. It was actually coming from the Abu Dhabi United Group, which also owns Manchester City. And that is basically breaching financial fair play rules.
I mean, Martyn, I know it's relatively early days in terms of Shefrin and this sort of UEFA regime as such, and I'm just wondering, is this a test of their strength in the context of Man City being a super club, being one of the clubs that has been mentioned in conjunction with sort of these planned, anytime there's a breakaway mentioned, and some of the stuff in Der Spiegel referenced that is there a danger that UEFA won't be particularly strong on a club that's in that contingent, in case in some ways there's some domino effect that leads to sort of upsetting others in some strange way?
Yeah, I don't think so, Dan, because I think actually if you look back at what the Spanish league have been absolutely jumping up and down, trying to get UEFA to take action against both Manchester City and Paris Saint-Germain for more than a year. The La Liga chief executive Javier Tebas has he's been pressing UEFA on this for more than 12 months. So I think a few people in the other clubs and the European Club Association, that's Juventus, Agnelli is the president of the European Club Association. He's also the chairman of Juventus. I think they're pretty hot on UEFA doing something about this, because I think what Manchester City fans say, this is financial fair play rules. It's just an attempt to maintain the status quo, maintain the position of the old established clubs. And that's a fair point, but it's also what the existing rules are. So you may not agree with the rules, but I think you still have to abide by them. And I think people like the big clubs in Spain, the big clubs in Italy, and Bayern Munich, I think they will be absolutely pushing UEFA to deal with this as strictly as possible.
In so much as you can be sure of anything based on someone's public appearances, what did you make of Alexander Gefran and the resolve and the general demeanour and performance yesterday, Martyn?
Yeah, well, I've tweeted a couple of months ago that it's always dangerous to praise sports administrators too much, because they do have a habit of letting you down. But actually, I do think so far so good with Gefran. He doesn't come across as someone who's wants to spend his time doing backroom deals and the sort of usual FIFA-style patronage that we've got used to. He actually seems much straighter than that, much more honest. And I hope that is the case.
We'll play this back to you in 6 months when the inevitable happens.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, yeah, as I say, I think he's done quite well. FIFA are in the middle of this, trying to use $24 billion of mainly Saudi money to get new competitions, and he's not trying to do deals on that. He's just basically saying, no, we don't agree with this as it is. So I think it's as you say, there is a question of wait and see. But the people I speak to who actually deal with him on a basis from the national associations, they seem to think he's pretty straight too.
Yeah, one of the other aspects yesterday, Martyn, that came up in the conference was related to, you mentioned there was questions about FIFA and also about the possibility of what the UEFA support will be in terms of the 2030 bid. And obviously he was quite strong about that he will be supporting a European bid and sort of ruling out this cross-continent Spain, Morocco, Portugal idea. Now, in this parish and in your parish, obviously there is this joint sort of UK and Ireland bid going on at the moment, or the feasibility study towards a bid. Are you sort of getting a sense that this is something that's a strong possibility and could gain support in terms of the beat that you cover and what you're hearing?
Well, I actually think that was a really significant moment, because for Gefran to say he doesn't support a cross-confederation bid, Africa and Europe going together, I think that's a major, major boost for a British and Irish bid, because if he was in any way sort of equivocal about it and saying, oh, well, we have to wait and see, then I think that would have sent a message that that's going to be okay. But actually, he's been very, very firm. He doesn't want that. And I think if that happened, because I think if it did happen, if Spain and Morocco got together, I'm pretty sure Britain and Ireland wouldn't bid. So I think he will do everything he can to ensure that Spain doesn't go down that road. And there are things that can be done instead. I said he's not a wheeler dealer, but he might well encourage Spain and Portugal, for example, why not do a joint bid for 2028 or the Euros then or the Euro 2032. And then he can say, I will support you for that, but do not go on the cross-confederation route.
Martyn, brilliant stuff. We'll leave it there. Thanks a million.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Martyn Ziegler there, who is the chief sports reporter with the Times. There has been a goal at Vicarage Road. There's about 4 minutes to go. Let's hear about it from Nigel Bidmead.
It's Watford 1, Manchester City 2. The home side have scrambled a goal late on in this game. It's the first goal that Manchester City have conceded away from home since August, and it's going to make the last 5 or 6 minutes of this game very interesting as the home crowd urge their team on. Watford 1, Manchester City 2.
Yeah, they've been good, Watford. I mean, we're sort of talking here about plucky old Watford, but they're 11th in the richest league in the world. They're probably getting about 150 million a season.
Yeah, they change their manager every 18 months or so, if even.
But they've been good football.
Yeah, no, they've had chances as well since they went 2-1 behind. But just like what Martyn was saying there, I thought it was interesting in terms of the bid stuff yesterday. And this 2030 thing isn't really on our radar as much.
No, I didn't understand the significance. What is 2030?
Far away. Well, 2030 is, I mean, the FAI, the Northern Irish,
I live in the
IFA,
moment,
and England, Scotland, and Wales have been speaking about a World Cup bid in 2030.
I'm interrupting. This has been England, Ireland, Northern Ireland,
Scotland, and Wales.
Okay.
The 5. This has been a story that's been doing the rounds.
The Euros of 2030.
No, the World Cup.
The World Cup.
The World Cup in 2030.
Okay.
So and that's what in the context of the Copa Libertadores fiasco. Because the main front runners for that would be Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, because it's 100 years from the first World Cup. Joe, you just look completely perplexed here. You're losing me here.
No. I was doing the thing that you just do in these moments. I was just calculating what age I'm going to be in 2030, and I didn't like the answer. Do it for a second.
I'm going to be 48. I know that. I've already thought about this. Yeah, turning 48 that year. Yeah,
that's all I want to know about 2030.
Well, there you go.
So it seems we're
contenders. Yeah. Now we wouldn't. Now with 5 teams hosting a tournament to be completely unprecedented, and we wouldn't all get into it. That would be the upshot of the whole thing.
Kick Northern Ireland out.
But maybe we'll be unified by then, Joe.
Listen,
maybe we'll be unified.
The demographics are in our favour.
So, and there was this idea of Spain, Morocco and Portugal coming together, and Sheffrin was basically saying what African and European, no, UEFA won't be behind that, we'll be going with
Spain and Morocco's very close.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter, they're different football confederations, Joe.
Okay, well, we'll see.
I'm just saying that it's something that I think in January they might even announce the plan, because this, as much as the World Cup's miles away, they make the decision 8 years before. So the decision will be in 2022, and all the bidding and lobbying and all that would take place in the next 4 years.
Oh, fair enough.
So this would become a very big thing.
Say it was Northern Ireland, England, Scotland, Wales. I mean, it's bad enough. I know, I'm sure we'll have about a 65-team World Cup at that stage, but you can't have all of us in as host nations.
No, you can't. That's what I'm saying.
That's the issue.
Maybe we'd have to have our own little tournament to see who gets in.
Yeah.
England will definitely be in because they'll be doing most of the legwork, you know.
Okay.
But it would be a stadium here or there in the others. You know, I mean, I think actually one of the problems is that Northern Ireland wouldn't even have a stadium.
Exactly. What do they bring into the party? Get rid of them first.
See, this is exactly what this is like English politics today, and this is part of the problem in a nutshell, Joe.
Is there any way you can shaft everyone?
They are actually
just
part of the same.
Is there any way you can shaft everyone? And England, Ireland.
Okay. I mean, this is this is Brexiteer stuff from you here. What do we need them over there anyway? To prop up our government.
We have to look after our own. That's all I'm saying.
Oh.
I'm obviously joking.
Some of them are our own, Joe. God, the Celtic fans will be on to you now.
48 in 2030
Yeah, well, how old will you be? You're
probably something similar.
44, something like that. Yeah.
Equally. No, I'd be a bit older.
Would you?
What is it, 12 years, 30, 45?
What year were you born in?
85.
Oh yeah, I'd be 45. Yeah. It's pretty simple sums, but it's an even.
It's gone full time in the 3 Premier League games. We'll run you through those reports in just a second. And also, actually, on a serious note, I understand what it will mean for Dundalk or the league champions with this new competition. What it means for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th in the Irish League, you can explain to me in just a second as well.
Off the ball
on News Talk.
Leia Healthcare are for the tumbles, jumps and bumps in life. That's why we're recording this ad.
Thanks to saving over €340 on my health insurance.
I'm saving over €340 on mine. Where Mom pays for mine. With Flex 125 Explorer from Leia Healthcare. Because when you pay for one of your kids' or teens' health insurance, the rest goes free. Oh, it's good to live. Leia Healthcare. Looking after you always.
Insurance provided by Ellipse Insurance Limited, trading as Leia Healthcare. Leia Healthcare Limited, trading as Leia Healthcare, and Leia Life is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. A kid or teen is defined as a dependent aged under 18. Savings based on one free kid or teen. Offer available from December 15th, 2018.
Want to upskill? Check out National College of Ireland's January Springboard Plus courses. We have higher diplomas in data analytics, software development or web technologies, and postgraduate programs in data analytics and cybersecurity. Courses are offered in the evening and online, are 100% free for the unemployed, and 90% funded if you are employed. Come to our Springboard information session on Wednesday, December 5th at 5 p.m. in the IFSC or visit ncirl.ie.
As you grow older, you may develop a type of irregular heartbeat called atrial fibrillation, leaving you 5 times more likely to have a stroke. The Irish Heart Foundation says taking your pulse twice a day for 2 weeks can help detect atrial fibrillation and help prevent a stroke. Visit irishheart.ie. Prevent a stroke. Feel the pulse. Supported by Pfizer Bristol Myers Squibb.
Football Index is reinventing football betting. You can buy and sell the world's top players. Their value may go up and down, but it's not over with the final whistle like a regular bet. Football Index, reinventing football betting.
Start building your portfolio today at footballindex.co.uk or download the app now. New customers only, minimum deposit and conditions apply. Gamble responsibly.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
So it's gone full time at Vicarage Road. It has finished 2-1 Man City. We'll go over to Nigel Bidmead in a second. But first, let's hear about things between West Ham and Cardiff this evening. Guy Swindle's there for us.
West Ham 3, Cardiff 1. The Hammers with their first consecutive wins in the league since January 2017. Came about in fortuitous circumstances though. Cardiff missed a penalty in the first half that would have given them a deserved lead. But in the first 15 minutes after the break, the Hammers scored twice through substitute Lucas Perez, and then Mikel Antonio headed home. After that, West Ham in cruise control until Murphy bundled the ball over in time added on. West Ham 3, Cardiff 1.
Now, Ian Wilding watched Bournemouth against Huddersfield.
Full-time, Bournemouth 2, Huddersfield 1. The Cherries move up 3 places to 6th in the Premier League, but they were made to fight for those 3 points. They went 2 up on 22 minutes after goals from Wilson and Fraser, but Huddersfield dominated the last 20 minutes of the first half. Congolo got a goal back for the away side 7 minutes before half-time. The second half was a real battle, plenty of challenges flying in. Huddersfield had their chances to equalise, but that's back-to-back defeats for the Terriers, who remain 1 place above the Premier League drop zone. Full-time, Bournemouth 2, Huddersfield 1.
And good night for Chris Hughton against Crystal Palace. Alan Lewis there.
It's finished Brighton 3, Crystal Palace 1. Brighton win the game and the Derby Day bragging rights. All the damage done in the first half. Glenn Murray put Brighton in front from the penalty spot. Shane Duffy was then sent off for the home side for headbutting Patrick Van Arnholt. But Brighton doubled the advantage through Balogun before Adone made it 3 on the stroke of half-time. Despite the one-man advantage, Palace didn't create enough in the second half. Their consolation coming from a Luka Milivojevic penalty. It was too little, too late though. It finished Brighton 3, Crystal Palace 1.
And we mentioned it has gone full time in the 8 o'clock game between Watford and Man City. A 2-1 win for City. Here's Nigel Bidmead's report.
Watford 1, Manchester City 2. The champions are 5 points clear at the top of the table after this dominant but nervy at the end win against the Watford side who lack self-belief. Leroy Sané scored on 39 from a Riyad Mahrez cross, and 6 minutes after the restart, Mahrez doubled City's lead with a crisp finish. Gabriel Jesus, the provider. Late on, Watford's Abdoulaye Doucouré forced home from close range. The first away goal City have conceded since August. The home side gave it a go, but City held firm. Watford 1, Manchester City 2.
It all re-establishes City's 5-point lead at the top of the table. Liverpool have a game in hand. So before we go, what does UEL2 potentially mean for the second, third, fourth place team?
Well, they're waiting to find out. At the moment, they start in the Europa League and have to play 4 games to get into the group stage. Now they will start in UEL2 and need to play 4 games to get into the group stage of that. Oh. It's worth a lot of money in the Europa League at the moment, like 220 grand when you start, I think. Or 240 when you start off. They need to find out that they're going to be guaranteed the same amount of money in the new competition for entry. We asked about that yesterday and UEFA weren't 100% clear. So that's the thing. That's the key. It's all about the cash, because Europe is the main driver of funding for the league here, unfortunately, but only for the lucky few clubs that keep qualifying.
Okay, we'll have to see how that plays out then. We're pretty much done this evening. Thanks so much for listening as ever. Time to tell you that our mystery voice was LeBron James. Dan McDonnell did know it, it turns out. Mick Lowry in Carlow also knew it. So Mick, you've won a pair of VIP tickets to Friday's show from Musgrave Park, which is the Off the Ball Road show in association with Heineken Rugby Club. Tomorrow morning, OTBAM, live on all your social channels, 7:45 in the morning. And then we're back at 7. We'll have Brian Driscoll and Keith Wood on Wednesday Night Rugby. There's Manchester United Arsenal to be watched as well. And then you might have seen Monaco play Nice in what is now the Thierry Henry versus Patrick Vieira derby on Friday. So Richard Dunn, who's in that part of the world and watches Monaco regularly, is going to join us and give his take on how Henry and Vieira are shaping up. Richie is up in for Tom Dunn, so we'll see you tomorrow. Good luck.